Hi, welcome to another episode of Adapted Sports Focus. I'm Charlie Burrows, your host. Tonight, we're going to be talking about wheelchair softball with Jeff Garten and Nilesh Schmidt. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Doing good,
You?
Charlie.
Thank you for joining me in here tonight. We're going to talk about wheelchair softball, and it's a sport that you guys been. How long have you been involved in the sport itself?
Let's see, I started with the Junior Rolling Twins when I was about 16. I'm 28 now, so
So about 12 years for
on
you?
and off about 12 years.
Okay. And you, Nilesh?
This is my first year joining this
Okay.
Wheelchair softball this year. So
So you're a rookie.
I'm a rookie. Yes.
Okay.
He got to carry the bags this year.
Well, let's start with Nilesh. How did you get involved? I mean, your first year out there.
First, I started with the Century College or Courage Center sports camp,
Sure.
and then found out about basketball. Then I met Jeff through basketball.
Oh, we're
and,
sorry.
And then that's how he introduced me to softball. Finally, took him long enough, but you know.
Hey, I've been trying for years. Can't help it, you didn't want to come out.
So, and Jeff, how about you? I mean, you've been involved for 12 years, and you got hooked through Courage Center. Was that kind of the deal?
Well, actually, yeah, one of our players, Jeff Gustafson's wife, Janelle, kind of roped me into most of all my sports. I started just looking around for some sports, and I called her about sled hockey, which then led to wheelchair basketball,
Okay.
which then led me to softball.
Okay. And explain. Janelle was actually an employee with Courage
Janelle
Center?
was in the sports and rec department, and was one of the leads for Courage in the sports and rec department.
Okay. And so she got you involved, and you basically started with these other sports first and led into playing the softball.
Yeah, the one thing you'll find out about wheelchair softball is, we do have some people that just play wheelchair softball, but we have everything from, we have some triathletes.
Okay.
We have wheelchair basketball is very common. We have tennis, rugby.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of crossover between the sports.
Okay, so a lot of multi-sport athletes will play in the softball.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and softball, I mean, compared to some of the other sports, little I won't say easier game, but a little gentler game.
Oh,
Let's just say.
I would totally disagree with you,
Okay.
because I feel bad for some of those catchers, because at one of the tournaments I saw one of our guys, former defensive tackle for North Dakota State, hit the catcher at home. Catcher drops the ball, but he bounced into the dugout.
Oh, geez.
His chair hit the ground, his knees hit the ground. He bounced up and landed in the dugout, which was about a 3-foot bounce.
Wow. Okay, so obviously being catcher is probably the most hazardous position on the field.
Second base isn't too far behind.
Yeah, you got guys
breaking up a double play.
Okay. And what positions do you guys play out in? So, Nilesh, you were talking about you're brand new to the team.
Yep.
And so you've been playing outfield this year, kind of learning the game.
Yep. Learning the game. See where I fit in the best.
Okay.
So yeah.
And how did the batting? I mean, was it difficult learning how to hit from the wheelchair?
A little bit, yeah, because I've never actually done it.
Okay.
So it was hard to learning, but I got the hang of it pretty well. So yeah.
And Jeff, what position do you play? Generally.
Generally, usually about third base, but I pitched a little bit this year.
Okay.
At one of our tournaments in Nebraska, our catcher wasn't able to make it, so I played catcher for.
So you played the danger positions.
Yeah. I like the ball getting hit at me, I guess.
Yeah, there is that. Third base is always considered the hot corner, so you got to be on your toes basically over there.
Yeah.
So and hitting for you, I mean, I know hitting from the chair it's a lot different than somebody standing up there and hitting the ball. I've seen most players take a two-handed approach with the bat. Do you do that, or?
The way that you determine if you take a two-handed or one-handed approach really depends on how much function you have, because we do have a classification system. And since I do have a lot of my hips,
Mhm.
I use a two-handed swing.
Okay.
But as you get higher levels of injury, and they don't have the stability to stabilize themselves,
They'll
they will use one hand holding themselves on the chair,
Okay.
and then one hand will hold the bat. We do have cages that we will block ourselves in,
Okay.
so that when you do swing two-handed, you don't sit and do a 360 in the.
So they're like these little blocks that you can still wheel from, but they're going to help stabilize the chair.
Yeah, I mean, like with mine, I have two anti-tips in the back,
Okay.
or so it's called a six-wheel chair, and I use what some people would call like a chalk block.
Okay.
So it looks like an L bracket almost, and that's what I bracket my wheels in with,
Okay.
one on each side.
All right. And you mentioned the classification system. How does that work?
Okay, so a class, you can have 22 points on the field.
Okay.
There's 10 players on the field at one time.
Okay.
One of those players has to be a quad.
All right. And what point value are they assigned?
As
General in
okay, so
based on function.
if you go from basically your pecs to about your here,
Okay.
if you're impacted at your pecs, you're probably a class 1. If you got some of your abs, like your belly button down is affected, you're probably a class 2.
Okay.
And if you've got hips, you're most likely a class 3. So Nilesh over here, being an amputee, he'd be a class 3.
Okay. And are you a class 2 then or a class 3?
I'm actually one of the oddballs because of my cerebral palsy. I have affliction in my wrist, so I kind of border on the quad, but I
Okay.
don't have my quad card, so they class me as a 1.
Okay. Okay. And so you must have at least one on the field at all times.
Usually what happens is you'll have, what is it? You have to have one quad, and the
Okay.
quad adds up as at 1 point.
All right. So a actually qualified quad.
Yes, and
Okay.
to qualify as a quad, you have to qualify now using the USQR, which stands for U.S. Quad Rugby Association,
Okay.
because we do have official classifiers that will come in and classify each player prior to national tournaments.
Okay. And so they would get what you said, a quad card
Yes.
that certifies them as a quadriplegic playing in this game or
Correct.
tournament. Okay. And so you said the classifications are 1, 2, and 3. So you can have as many 3s out there as you want, as long as you don't go over a 22 count.
As long as you do not go over 22 points, you can put all 3s out there, but you can't put 10 players out there.
Right, because that's obviously going to be way over. So in that type of play, I mean, your 3s are probably your
Your 3s are your
quick
star dominant
players,
players.
right?
They're
The
definitely-
shortstops.
Actually, your 3s are mostly your outfielders, because we will have players that will, from our fields are about 250 feet maybe,
Okay.
and we'll have a guy in left field throw a guy out at first base.
Okay. Well, that's quite a throw. That's quite an arm. And you brought one of the balls you guys use.
Yeah.
And explain what this ball is.
So that is a Chicago-style 16-inch kitten ball. And the reason we use that is because, being that we have to push our chair and catch and do everything, there's very few of us that wear a glove.
Okay.
So we didn't want to go with a 12-inch softball because it's just a lot harder to pick up.
Okay.
The only players that use a glove, or most of the time on the field, and you don't have to, is the first baseman.
Mm-hmm.
Some pitchers will,
Okay.
and then some catchers, if they've got enough hand use, will use a glove as well.
All right. So the first baseman, obviously, because they probably often have to reach for a ball, having that glove is a nice extension. So.
Well, not only that, but if you go with a front wheel, it has to beat the ball, because
Okay.
the front wheel, the way you are safe is if any of your front wheels cross either your little wheels in front or your big wheel in back, cross the base before the ball gets to the base or you get tagged, you're safe.
Okay.
So that glove gives you a couple extra inches,
to
which
get,
makes a big difference.
Okay.
Or can make a big difference.
Okay. And now you mentioned that the bases, I mean, obviously in regular softball, the
Same.
bases are about a foot square. How the bases are in wheelchair softball?
Well, the dimensions of a softball field are the exact same. So it's 60 feet between bases.
Okay.
And the bases are more circular.
Okay. So the bases are, what would you say, about, a semicircle of, say, what, 3 feet then, basically?
About 3 feet in circumference.
Okay. And so it gives both the wheelchair runner and the base player room to be on that base at the same time if they have to be.
If they have to be. And we do have obstruction rules. So the player, the defender, can't just be sitting on the base, blocking the base unless he has the ball.
Okay.
Once he has the ball, he can block the base all he wants.
Okay. Now in regular softball, you see this safety base.
Yep, we
on
have
the
that as
outside.
well.
You have that in wheelchair softball, and so the runners are encouraged to go through there
Unless they are going
to
to try
beyond
for a
first
second base, yes.
Okay. All right. Nilesh, you're very new to
Yeah.
that. What did you enjoy, or what did you find about the experience playing softball?
I enjoyed being on the team. It was fun. I enjoyed being it's fun, like a little family thing. I learned a lot from my first year. Let's see what else. It was just a joy. It was fun doing something other than just standing around watching everybody else playing sports. I actually got to be in a chair and have fun myself.
Okay. So it's the getting involved in the,
Yeah,
in the
getting
social
involved,
aspect. And
yeah.
And that's something I hear when I talk to a lot of people about different sports. It's the interaction, the social interaction, the being a part of something bigger than just like you said, hanging around watching.
Yeah.
And Jeff, is that kind of your experience when it comes to playing sports like this? Is just being out with other folks, or?
Well, softball, for a lot of people, they use it as cross training for basketball or something to just stay in shape is how it starts.
Okay.
But then I consider the team kind of like my summer family. I mean, we had more fun sometimes off the field doing our social circles, we should call them.
Okay. Okay.
And sometimes those were more fun than the actual games, and you just getting to know people. I mean, I started when I was fresh. I graduated high school, and a week later, I was on the adult team. So I mean,
Okay.
I was 17 years old and playing with some guys that were 2-3 times my age.
Okay, all right. And that's the other thing. The age range for the players is pretty vast then.
Oh yeah, we this year at nationals, I mean, Chicago had a kid that is a senior in high school,
Okay.
and then we had some retirees,
Okay.
like Vietnam War vets.
All right. Okay. So and so the sport is open for anybody that feels they want to get out and try, get
Yeah.
involved.
I mean, there's some teams that they try their best, but you can tell they're more there just to have fun, and then there's your extremely competitive teams.
And I mean, you obviously see the gamut of that. What the teams locally or in your region, how often do you play, outside of, let's say, a national tournament?
Well, there's actually 2 teams in Minnesota,
Okay.
and so we actually play at Northwoods Park and Todd Anderson Field.
Okay, and that's in Brooklyn Park, right?
That's in Brooklyn Park,
Okay.
107th and what is it?
Oof.
It's out by 107th and Zane, I believe. Yeah.
Something like
Yes,
that, yeah.
yeah.
And we just got Courage actually got that field just
About 3 years ago now.
Some-
3 or 4 years ago.
3-4 years ago
Yeah.
through the Pepsi Refresh project and the Twins.
Okay. So it was a project that was sponsored, and the money was provided by PepsiCo to help build the field,
PepsiCo and the Minnesota Twins
and the Twins partnered together.
Twins partnered together to get the field for us right now. Before that, we were playing on a parking lot
Okay.
behind a rec center in Brooklyn Park.
Okay. Yeah, it is pretty interesting. It's the first of its kind in Minnesota, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's actually one of the very few. I mean, I think the next closest one is either Chicago or Nebraska.
Okay. And you mentioned Chicago, Nebraska. How often do you play teams like that? Do you take road trips to play these teams?
Well, our team, we took two tournaments, or we traveled to two tournaments this year. We did a Nebraska Invitational, and then we did Nationals, which was this year, or the World Series, which was in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Okay. Right.
So
and
most teams, what they'll do is we hold a tournament, an invitational tournament, so you get 3, 4, 5 teams, and you play over a weekend.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it's just not cost effective to just go down for a weekend, play a team or two.
Right. Right. It's better for all the teams. They can kind of all get together and play.
I mean, in Minnesota, we're fortunate we have 2 wheelchair softball teams.
Right.
So we every other Thursday will play each other.
Okay. And how often do you get out there and practice?
Once, twice a week.
Once, twice a week. Okay.
And that's as a team. I mean, myself, I would occasionally go and throw with my dad, who's one of the coaches,
Okay.
or go to the weight room and lift weights.
Okay.
Just like any other athlete, we train on our own. and
Okay. And so it's all a matter of trying to keep in shape and
Yeah, and the ball may be round, but we don't want to be.
I understand that. And Nilesh, when you first started,
Yeah.
and did you know what to expect when you got out there?
No, I got there, I looked at it, I was like, I was scared to play, not gonna lie. It was, first sport, and, it's like, am I up for this or not? But I really actually got into it very
Okay.
well.
So and it didn't take long then to get accepted by the other
Nope.
players to come
And
in.
few, like Jeff, I've known him for quite a few years, and so that was, easy. There's one person, but then that whole team it was gathered like super fast. It was
Okay.
making friends and families fast.
I was gonna say we come and became kind of a family. I mean, we have people all the way from up in Duluth, Minnesota,
Okay.
and I think the furthest south we go is down by Rochester.
Okay. So you do have people coming in from different areas of the state to come in and play on your team.
Yes.
Okay. How many players do you have on your team?
At last count, I think I counted 25.
25 players. And is there a number is there a roster size that you cannot go beyond?
No, National Wheelchair Softball Association does not have a maximum limit.
Okay. And as long as you have 10 players to play, you
don't
can
even
get out
have to
there.
have 10 players. I mean, if you do not have a quad, one of the rules is you play with 9, but you can only play 19 points.
Okay.
And the 10th position is an automatic out.
Oh, okay.
So the quad is very valuable. I mean, you'll see teams where we had our quads coming from way far away, and we made agreements that they didn't, unless they wanted to, they didn't have to come to practice. I mean, do we want them at practice? Yes, but we understand that you do have lives outside of softball, and we will
Okay.
make exceptions.
So as long as they were able to make it to tournaments and such, then you were okay with them being unable to make it to practice for whatever reason. Then
Exactly.
okay, and so it's still very inclusive, and again because you have the quad on the team and you have people with various disabilities playing for
And
your.
not only that, but inclusive also meaning we had, what was it, 3 females on the team this year?
Yeah.
So you do.
So
have-
it is male and female co-ed,
So it is a co-ed team, and
and the females do get to play a point down. So if they're a class 3, they will play as a class 2.
okay,
If they're a class 2, they play as a class 1. Class 1s still play as a class 1
right,
as of right now.
okay. So there's a slight advantage to having the women on the team then, is in the point system then.
in the point system, and yeah, I mean, I've
But
played against some females that nothing against some of the guys we've played against, but some of them, I'd take some of the women and put them square up against them.
yeah, they're no less competitive than the guys that you have on your team.
Oh no, sometimes they're more competitive just because they want to go out and prove themselves
Okay.
that they can hang with the guys.
Okay. Well, that's not a bad thing.
No.
And you said you had the national tournament in Biloxi this year. First off, how did you guys do?
We ended up getting third out of 19 teams.
That's a good run.
The furthest team actually came all the way from Japan.
Wow. Okay.
That's why we call it the World Series.
How's the World Series now?
Because
Okay.
wheelchair softball is actually becoming a global sport. There's teams now in Korea,
Okay.
Japan, the U.S. of course. Canada has a team every once in a while, and then Nigeria has
Okay.
started to kind of dabble in getting a team.
Well, that's very interesting. And so the Japanese team come in and so it what was the tournament like though? I mean, was it pool play? Did you?
It's a double elimination tournament,
Okay.
and the way the bracket is set up is how you finished the year before.
Okay. And so were you in a tougher bracket then, or?
We were the 4th seed out of the 19 teams.
Okay.
So we ended up playing last year's national champs, which again ended up being this year's national champs,
Okay.
to go on further. And we actually played them really close
Okay.
and didn't lose by too much.
So what was the Biloxi experience like?
Well, last year was there. It was there as well.
Okay.
Last year was a lot warmer and dry.
Okay.
This year, I needed a snorkel.
I understand that it was quite damp down there this year, and
Yeah, I think it was. I heard 22 inches in 4 days.
okay.
And we were playing in that because we will play sun or rain as long as there's no lightning in the sky.
Okay.
We will practice, we will play.
You'll play in the rain. Okay. And that changes the game a bit when you're playing in the rain, doesn't
Oh
it?
yes, it definitely will slow the game down a little bit, and you play more station to station,
Okay.
and you
And-
kind of become more strategic.
And with the wheelchairs you guys use, they're the traction probably is a lot different as well in the rain.
Yeah, there are different things you can do with to get more traction in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things I like to do is I'll take some air out of my tire, so I'm not sliding as much.
Okay. So you kind of deflate them a little bit then?
I do deflate them a little bit to give myself at least what I feel is a little bit more traction in the rain.
Okay. And you said it's been in Biloxi the last 2 years. Is that a new site that they're using, or is this just something that luck of the draw? Or?
Each team or the teams that want nationals put a bid in, and then it's determined by the national board who wins the bid,
Okay.
or wins the bid, excuse me.
Okay. So any idea where it's going to be next year then?
There's rumors, but I'm not
Not
comfortable
certain.
enough to say where I think it's going to be.
Okay.
I'm hoping it's a lot closer than Biloxi. Not that I don't like flying, but it's a lot cheaper to be able to drive, and
Yeah, say if we're in Chicago or even here.
or there's a team in Michigan. We had it here the year prior to Biloxi, so,
so 3 years ago.
3 years ago now.
Okay. And when does the season run? I mean, if somebody interested in coming out and playing with you guys, first of all, where do they go? Is there someone they can contact?
Yeah, they could actually. I'm one of the members on the board. So they can contact me.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook page,
All right. And your team name then?
the Minnesota Flamethrowers, and so our Facebook page, Minnesota is spelled out, and then it's Flamethrowers, and that is spaced. So it's flame space throwers.
Okay.
And being that it is such an expensive sport, we actually do have we do look for community help and we got lots of it from the VFWs around us.
Okay.
We also picked up some sponsors such as Miken Sports, who
Okay.
provides us our bats,
All right.
and Miken is one of they're out of Minnesota, so it's a
Okay.
local
So
bat
it's a
company.
local business. Okay.
Kenda because one of the most expensive things that you wouldn't think of would be tires and tubes.
Okay, sure.
So we picked up Kenda Sports Tire as a sponsor, and they give us a discounted price on our tires and tubes.
Oh, that's very helpful. So, so they're your biggest sponsors. They'll help you out with the equipment and such. And so it is. You said it's expensive, but as a player, do you have to pay to be part of this team, or
There's
is it
no-
just the travel expenses?
There's no entry fees
Okay.
as of right now to be on the team, and we do reimbursement for the hotels. So you pay up front for your hotel, and then I was the treasurer this year. So what they would do is Ace would give me his or Nilesh. We call him Ace for short because
Okay.
when you're on the field, I don't want to be yelling Nilesh. I'm just going to yell something short.
That makes sense.
So he would give me his receipt for his room at the end of the tournament, and then I would go home, calculate all of the cost.
Okay.
We just usually 2 players to a room, and so then if there was 2 players to the room, they got fully reimbursed.
Okay.
If there was 1, they got half the room back.
Oh, okay. So.
So you do pay your travel cost, but you do get reimbursed for your room.
Yeah. Okay. And Nilesh, you said you didn't travel this year because you're new. You didn't get collected
Yeah,
for the travel
well, I
team?
went to Nebraska this year.
Okay.
Because I wasn't too far, so and it was only a weekend
And so
thing.
getting
And so
the
it was a
time-
little bit easier, you know.
Sure.
But yes, that big long weekend, 3-4 day tournament. It was for a newbie. I was like, do I really want to? But you know, it was.
Right. But hopefully next year.
But next year, yes, definitely be going.
Oh,
to
we've already told him if we have to tie him down to a car, he's coming next
Yeah.
year to one of the World Series.
And so I mean, when you go to like the World Series there, do you limit your roster, or is everybody from the team invited to go?
Everybody's welcome to come.
Okay.
They just have to know that our team is one of the competitive teams, so you may not get as much playing time as you'd like.
Right, but they could go for the experience.
They can go for the experience, and there's nothing. We do have a double switch re-entry rule, so there's lots of times where we'll do what we call a 3-for-1 switch. You'll take a class. If you have a situation where you have a runner on second and third with 1 out, and you're down by 1 run, like I was saying, your class 3s are usually your better hitters. So
Okay.
you'll take your class 1, who might be batting next, and sub him out for a class 3, which means then somewhere later in the lineup, you have to take a class 3 out of your lineup and put a class 1 in that spot.
Okay. Okay. Well, this has been really informative. I loved hearing about the trip and the sport, and we hope you get more people out there involved. I want to thank you guys for coming, Nilesh and Jeff. I hope to see you back out on the diamond.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
In the meantime, I'm Charlie Brose. I'm the host of Adapted Sports Focus. We thank you for joining us. So tune in next time.